Hey folks, it's Matt once again, and I don't know when this will be uploaded, but my first part of my sort of mini Bill Paxton marathon since great actor unfortunately passed away. So I'm not going to be able to go through all of his films because I just don't have the time, and honestly some of those movies I just don't have to pick them up, but I can at least go through a couple of them. For example, Weird Science, where Bill Paxton played the asshole brother Chet, and very memorable character. You stewed buttwad. You stole in my room, goddammit. Anyway, get into Weird Science is a 1985 film directed by John Hughes, and this might have been the same year that The Breakfast Club came out, and I think after this he did Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and then Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I've always loved this film. It was always one of my favorite John Hughes films. I could tell from a good group of people that they kind of look down on this when they think of John Hughes movies because it's more goofy, it's more silly, it's more over the top. But that's part of the charm of it. It's, of course, an unrealistic story. Come on now. It's two guys who are nerds, who are very unpopular in school, and one day they have the house to themselves. This guy's parents are gone, and they both get on this guy's computer, Ilan Mitchell-Smith, and they decide to create a woman. And first they're creating it on a computer. Let's try to get as much info so maybe we can talk to it. Ultimately, they do this over-the-top ceremony with this Barbie doll type and wearing bras on their heads. And ultimately, they create Kelly LeBrock, who almost like their own personal genie can do whatever they want her to do. And the big chunk of the movie is this party where all this crazy insanity happens. And real quickly, I want to talk about this DVD, this flashback edition DVD. The features are lacking. You get the pilot for the TV show, you get a trailer, and then you get this. Stars Anthony Michael Hall and John Capellos reflect on the making of Weird Science in this four-part retrospective documentary. An inside look at the music, fashion, and hilarious characters in the teen comedy about everyone's favorite computer nerds. They mentioned it was a four-part retrospective. The fucking entire thing is 16 minutes long total. 16 minutes long. And there's a lot of people they don't get for it. And it's sad. I wish they would have done a good version so you could have had Bill Paxton interviewed before he passed away. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. I could almost guarantee it. But it'd be nice to have a good special edition with everybody. I know there's actually a Q&A you can find on YouTube. I think it's from 2015 in Denver, where these three people talk on the Q&A. If you look at Weird Science 1985 or Weird Science Q&A or so forth, I believe it was in Denver. So all three of them were willing to talk about in that Q&A. Why didn't you have a good special edition instead of one where the documentary is only 16 fucking minutes long and you split the 16 minutes into four parts? So this part's 8 minutes. This part's 2 minutes. Sorry, I'm ranting, but that's what pisses me off. That's why I get on people's, I want to say people, studios' ass on special editions, because who knows when these people will be with us. If Unifocal, just like they did with Wes Craven, if they didn't get their head out of their ass, if they did a good version of this DVD, you would have had interviews with Bill Paxton, among others. I mean, anyway, the DVD, I wish I had my old DVD, not the one that's the high school edition, but the very, very old DVD, because also some of the music in this has changed. Because this is what was, the music in this is in the theatrical cut. But when I went to video, some music had to be changed because they couldn't afford it. But honestly, I like that more than the music in the theatrical. there's two scenes that pop into mind. When she's going down the escalator, they play Pretty Woman walking down the street. But I think in the version I always saw when I was a kid, it was Weird Science. And then at the end, when you have the scene where she's in gym class and all the people look at her, she's the new gym teacher, they're playing the Rocky music. Dun, 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 dun. Again, I guess this is the original theatrical music. But I'm like, I like the changes that were made because they couldn't get the rights to them. They didn't afford them. So, yeah, let's just have Weird Science. To me, it works better. People could say it's an overuse of the Weird Science theme, but I love that theme. Uh, which, let me get into that. I know it's 5 minutes in. But Oingo Boingo, I think that's a classic theme music. Yeah. You're my creation. Is it real? It's my creation. I do not know. No hesitation. No heart of gold. It's flesh and blood. I do not know. I do not know. From my heart and from my hand, why don't people understand my intentions? Ooh, weird science. Da, da, da. It's fun. It fits the film like a glove. And again, the original VHS and the first time this was on DVD, it has that. Which I know, maybe that's not how it's theatrically. That's how it was in theaters, but that's what I grew up with. So, if I ever find the old DVD, I want to pick it up because the features are not much, and I just prefer that old music. Again, it's not this, and it's not the high school edition, and it's not the Blu-ray. It's the very first time it was on DVD I want to pick up. But anyway, if you don't give a shit, then you don't give a shit. I'm mentioning it just for shits and giggles. But the film itself, I think it's fun. At the end of the day, it's a fun movie. It's an entertaining film. I think these two, Effie and Michael Hall, I enjoy them. I enjoyed them in his early work from The Breakfast Club to this movie, 16 Candles. And later on, I think he did a great job on the TV show The Dead Zone. And of his early work, this is actually my favorite film of his. I liked The Breakfast Club. I don't mind 16 Candles. I liked him in National Lampoon's Vacation. My favorite John Hughes film, I would say, is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. But this might be my second favorite. And it's my favorite of those high school movies, which I know, well, wait a minute. I love Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Actually, you know what? I would put Ferris. I would put Ferris. I'd be Planes, Trains, Automobiles, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. They would be number one, number two. I'm not sure which would be. I'm not sure which I like more because I love both those movies to death. And then this would be number three. One of those would be number one. One of those would be number two. Ferris Bueller, Planes, Trains, and then this. But anyway, and then Uncle Buck would be below it. It's definitely the John Hughes film I watched the most growing up. This and Ferris Bueller. And Planes, Trains, Automobiles. I thought they worked well together. It's sad that Ilan Mitchell-Smith did not get many roles after this. I think he went into being a professor of medieval culture, even worked on some Dungeon and Dragon tabletop games, which dealt with medieval stuff. And I thought he did a good job in this film. Him and Anthony Michael Hall had great chemistry. When they create Kelly LeBrock, it's very understandable why anyone and everyone would fall in love with her. Of course, she would later marry Steven Seagal, and I'm sure regret it. And I already talked about in my review for Hard to Kill, which she did not enjoy working on. And she did not enjoy Steven Seagal being married to him. But she looked great in it. She acted well. She was tough. She was strong. See, people want to talk about tough, strong, independent women. Kelly LeBrock was that. You know, when she's going up to someone, it's like, you're out of shape. I'll kick your ass. And a sort of British accent. And she does a great job in this. And again, people complain, well, it's silly, it's over the top. Of course, the entire premise is silly. But it's that 80s kind of silly that they make it fun and they go with it. And I think the rumor is John Hughes wrote this in 2 days. I don't know if that's true. But I still liked it. I still thought I did a good job. Even the way it starts out, where you feel sorry that these guys, they're just watching these women in gymnastics, and Robert Russler and Robbie Downey Jr. Robert Russler, who was in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, among other films. Robert Downey Jr. They play assholes who fuck with our two leads, and they go up behind them and pull their pants down, and they're standing there while all the women look at them. And Ilan Mitchell is trying to explain, and Anthony Michael Hall does this and pulls them out. Like, hey, let's just leave with our dignity, with what little we have left. And then the weird science titles pop up, and I love that old 80s style electricity that pops in through the titles. And then pretty much Anthony Michael Hall is staying with Smith, Ilan Mitchell-Smith, and they're watching Frankenstein. They go, and I remember it might have been a TV cut I saw where there's much more to the after the gym scene and after the titles. There's some other sequence. I think it's on YouTube. I forget exactly what it was, but that's another thing that could have been on the DVD. Those deleted scenes that you see on the TV version of this. Just saying, Universal, you fucking dipshits. But they're watching Frankenstein, and Anthony Michael Hall says, well, why don't we create a woman? You're serious? Do I look serious? And John Hughes has some nice little funny touches. Like when he says that, it looks into Anthony Michael Hall's eyes as if he was Frankenstein. And he's like, nah, I'm not digging up dead women. And Anthony Michael's like, no, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about your computer. We could ask it sexual questions. We're weird, sick, demented shit. You'll love it. And they play off each other very well. And they're trying to create on their computer. And that's another thing about this DVD is there's a bit of dialogue missing. For example, when they're looking at the computer and they're seeing which breast should they be big, small. It's funny. You put on the subtitles, this pops up, but you don't hear it. But I know it used to be there on my old DVD, which I wish I didn't get rid of. I mean, it might not seem much, but it's sort of weird they left it out, where he says, there's one thing I know, it's female stats. You just read it on the subtitles, but you don't hear it on the audio. And then it cuts to him saying, anything bigger, and you risking a sprained ton. Anything bigger than a handful, you're risking a sprained ton. Which I like that line, but it's weird they tear out the first part of that sentence. There's one thing I know, it's female stats. And I don't know if it was a mistake they made for this and the high school, both this and the high school edition DVD. I don't know why. Universal fucking up again. And you have the 80s over-the-top hacking through a computer. That, of course, if you watch nowadays, it's unrealistic. I don't give a shit. As a friend of mine says, this is not fucking Mythbusters, alright? This is not Ripley's Believe It or Not. Alright? As a friend of mine told me once. This is a movie for fun. And they're feeding these pictures into it for input. And you have these fun, over-the-top, going through corridors to mimic hacking through the government or some kind of facility to get more power. And they use this doll, and they're wearing bras, and they even ask, why are we wearing bras on our heads? And Anthony Michael Hall goes, ceremonial. And there's a storm, and when it happens, all this over-the-top stuff happens. A sign gets on fire. There's a dog on the ceiling. He's dancing on the ceiling. Matthew Michael tries to shatter with a bat, but the bat itself shatters from hitting the computer. And they create Kelly LeBrock, who is sexy, who's smart, who I would love to have had when I was 15. I think anybody would have loved to have when they were 15. But that's when it's kind of weird, because you could have gone to the creepy pedophile type of thing, because she seems like an older woman while they're 15. You want to see that done badly? Watch That's My Boy with Adam Sandler. Watch the beginning of that film. That's how you do that badly. This is how you do it in a weird way, tastefully. Because you have likable characters. Like, for example, they get into the shower. And she's showering herself. And it's PG-13, so you don't see too much. But she even goes, they says here PG-13. But she looks at him and goes, if we're going to have some fun, you guys really got to loosen up. And you realize they still have their jeans and their shoes on in the shower. And there's an innocence to these guys. And I think that's what makes it more fun and less creepy. And she's sort of the genie from Aladdin. She can do anything. She creates new suits for them. And as they're walking, they change. And Anthony Barker was like, oh my God, what are you wearing? Well, you know, what's happening? He keeps asking Ilan Mitchell, what's happening? He's like, Gary, I don't know, all right? And hey, you look good, all right? And Anthony Barker was like, yeah? He's like, yeah. And they get taken to this blues club, and you have people like Steve James in there. And people fuck with them. What are you doing with this Malacca? She's into Malaccas. Yeah, of course. And Anthony Michael Hall, as he gets drunk, has this weird voice. Hey, man. Yeah, I let this crazy same bitch for this crazy 8th grade bitch, man. She has some big titties, man. And I will talk to her every day on the telephone. On the telephone? Who's this boy talk on the telephone? No. And this bitch need me in the nuts. And that one guy's in the family jewels. In the family jewels, man. He broke my heart in two. Broke more than that. But you don't have to worry about that. You have this pretty woman here. Yeah, that's the truth, man. That's the plain truth. I don't know what kind of voice that is that Anthony Michael Hall's doing, but it's pretty fucking funny. And they take him out, and the other guy has to drive. And the guy, Anthony Michael Hall's in the back seat, still drunk with that voice, sort of telling him, see, he doesn't even have his license, Lisa. I said, no, give me the keys. Give me the keys. And then Ilan Mitchell-Smith's like, I'm trying to concentrate on the road. And Kelly Block goes, well, you should be concentrating more. You're about to run a red light. And then Anthony Michael Hall goes, oh, shit. I can't do it justice, but I thought they were pretty damn funny. You're introduced to Bill Paxton as Chet, the older brother who is in military school, and he's a complete another asshole. You stewed buttwad. How I like a greasy pork sandwich served in an ashtray. I miss Bill Paxton. I mean, he could play this character. He played a lot of different types of characters. And he played a pretty fun asshole. He has a lot of memorable moments in this movie. It's one of those pet peeves. I gotta stop saying like the thing with the like. Sometimes I just forget and start doing it. For instance, in the next morning where they're wondering if it was a dream, but then he wakes up and he has panties on. Bill Paxton doesn't know this yet. Gets his coffee. You spit in this? Okay then. And then the other guy leaves, and Bill Paxton goes, I like your panties. That's not a jolt, that's severe behavioral disorder. The next minute you'll have bras on your head. And then the kid sort of looks at the camera, and this does that breaking the fourth wall. Like, John Hughes knew how to do that the right way. It was done. He just a great writer and director, John Hughes. He knew how to work this kind of stuff. It's still fun, but it's not annoying. I never found it annoying. And then you have the moment where Bill Paxton goes, For Christ's sake, will you cover yourself? And he's standing there in his bare ass. Oh, man. And you have Robert Russell and Robert Downey Jr. fucking with our two leads, pouring slushy on them. And you have these two women who are not really big fans of what their boyfriends did. And one is Judy Aronson. Trying to find out the name of the other. Judy Aronson, she was in Friday the 13th Part 4. She was in American Ninja as the... she'll become the sort of the girlfriend to Michael Dudikoff in the first American Ninja. And Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter, she was the woman that was in the boat, got stabbed through it. You also have Suzanne Snyder, which she was in Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And she also played a character in Night of the Creeps, as well as Return of the Living Dead Part 2. So they've both been in films I recognize. And they did fine as the women who would become our two leads' girlfriends by the end of the movie. And Robert Russell and Robert Downey Jr., the escalator scene where they follow Kelly LeBrock. Which again, I like this more in the VHS and first DVD version where his Weird Science playing. The Pretty Woman song, I've never been a big fan of that song, Pretty Woman. Maybe because I'm not used to it, because I didn't grow up with that song during that scene. So maybe it takes some getting used to, but I just prefer the Weird Science song playing during that sequence. But you have Kelly LeBrock going to see Anthony Michael Hall's parents and threatening the dad. You're out of shape. I'll kick your ass. Don't you think it's sad? You never compliment him, and the sexual thing he gets is toss it off in the bathroom, and the mom freaks out. Anthony Michael, Ma, I never tossed off anything. You told me you were combing your hair, Mom. I never tossed off anything. I never tossed off. And she makes it so when they leave, the parents the dad doesn't remember who his son is, and the mom forgets the whole thing happened. And that's when you get to the big party. And a lot of very fun things at this party. Our two leads they're staying in the bathroom because they're still nervous and they're still have low self-confidence. The two women approach the bathroom and Anthony Michael Hall opens and they ask, "What are you doing in there?" And Ilan Mitchell-Smith goes, "Gary's taking a shit. Gary was taking a shit." And the look on Anthony Michael Hall's face, and immediately just this big slap right on Ilan Mitchell-Smith's face. And then cut back to him opening the door again. See, that's what's hard reviewing comedies, because explaining it is one thing. When you just see it, it's funny. That's why I don't review too many comedies that much, because it's hard to try to repeat the joke. Or why. Because humor is subjective. Because I find it funny doesn't mean you will, and vice versa. But I thought there's a certain innocence to it. There's a certain magic to it. There's this 80s flavor to it. The characters are likable. They have good chemistry with each other. Killer LeBrock, this genie that can do anything. In the real world of today, these two would have just boned her in a three-way, and it would be much more NC-17, boning, fucking, sucking, mouthing in the crotch, and up, down, center. But this is much more innocent time, and it works better for a film. I'm fucking surprised they did not do one of those porno parodies for Weird Science. I don't know what the hell you call it. I'm sure someone out there will think of a title for it, but other scenes I remember, the scene when they're in the bathroom, they do sort of the dragnet type of sequence where they both talk to each other very fast and up close on the mouse, and they're spitting that dialogue out very, very quickly. They try to make one for Robert Downey Jr. and Robert Russell, who apologizes to them, but they screw up, and more weird stuff happens. A guy gets stuck in the TV. A room, the kitchen turns blue. Furniture gets pulled out of the house. And Robert Downey Jr. yelling, "I'm shitting in my pants!" And a fucking missile comes into the house. "A missile in my house, Gary! You know, my parents coming home. They're gonna freak out." And so Kelly LeBron wants to find a way for them to get some self-confidence. So she creates some bikers, some mutant bikers. You got Vernon Wells pretty much playing his role from The Road Warrior. You got Michael Berryman from Hills of Eyes. And they're messing with them, humiliating them. Gets those two girls, Judy Aronson and Suzanne. I forget the characters' names. They get those two girls. I always remember this one guy who tried to give this beer to one of them and goes, "This bud's for you." I don't. Sometimes it's weird for me. A guy who just has one line of dialogue, just the way he said that, "This bud's for you." For some reason, it gets a kick out of me. You don't see that a lot nowadays, but back then, even a guy with one line of dialogue could be. It's almost Bill and Ted. "St. James football rules." Sometimes in the 80s, just those one-line guys will be memorable. And finally, our two leads have had it, and one goes, "We don't want to kick." The other goes, "Ass." They're going to kick some ass. And they get a gun, they threaten them off, tell them to tail out of there, they're badasses. And then Michael Berryman goes, "Should we keep this between us? I hate to lose my teaching job." And as he's leaving, "God bless." Gets them out, finds out, Anthony Michael Hall thought it was a water gun, but then it's a real gun. And that's where people start to respect them. Judy Aronson asks Ilan Mitchell-Smith to get a kiss. He's like, "Sure. Where do you want it?" Just the way he said that made me laugh. And then they're falling in love. Anthony Michael Hall and the other girl fall in love. And Chet comes home the next day. He's pissed. Wakes up Anthony Michael Hall, hitting him and his new girlfriend in the head with a shotgun. "Do you realize there's snowing in my room? God damn it!" Talking to Kelly LeBrock. And she goes, "Chip." And he's like, "Chet. My name is Chet." And you just see Anthony Michael Hall and the other girl laughing. And I think that was a mistake, but they kept that in the movie. And Chet finds the grandparents, and he goes, "I'm not a moron, you know." Was that my grandparents? Are they dead? Well, do you think they're having a good time being catatonic in a closet? As she tells the others to leave while she deals with Chet, and she goes, "I could be a real serious bitch if I don't get what I want." And you find out she turned into this weird creature. This weird, fat, practical effect creature with the same haircut that he had. It's like if a fraud fucked a bowl of shit. It, and he can eat flies with his big tongue. And I think that's stuff like that, either it loses you or it makes you smile. It makes me smile. I think some people, they look at John Hughes and they look at Breakfast Club, they look at even Planes, Trains, Automobiles, and even if there's a little bit of silly stuff, it's not over the top. People look at this, "Oh, it's over the top, it's goofy," but I think it's fun, it's entertaining, it's the kind of film it should have been. If you don't have them creating a woman with weird science, be over the top, be crazy, go for broke. It works for this film. And it showed that John Hughes can make different kinds of comedies. He can make the kind of comedy which is like The Breakfast Club or Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and he can make a different type of comedy. I think he was successful in that. I think he did a good job with that, writing and directing. And pretty much everything gets fixed up. Bill Paxton gets changed back. The two leads get the girl. She says her goodbyes to them. Everything's fine. And then the last shot is in gym class. Meet the new gym teacher. And she winks at the camera, and you get that song of Weird Science. Weird Science, I think it's a great movie. It's a great comedy of the 80s. It's very fun. It does not take itself seriously. At the same time, though, it's not annoying. It's not irritating. It's not aggravating. It has a good sense of humor to it. The characters work well. You have a great cast of recognizable people. Bill Paxton, Robert Downey Jr. You have a good sense of fun to it. And even to this day, I find it pretty damn funny. Many moments that made me funny. Them visiting the Blues Club, all the crazy stuff that happens with the party, like with the mutants and Vernon Wells and Michael Berryman. Also with Bill Paxton's character Chet. The and these two work well, very well with each other. And that's why the TV show did not work for me, because you don't have these guys back. It just doesn't work. And especially these two, I believe that they were friends with each other, and I thought they had really good chemistry with each other. I think they worked very well together. And I do wish this had a better special edition. I mean, it's too late to have Bill Paxton now, but I wish when this got made, this DVD, they went balls out with a special edition, but they failed. They flunked. So, yeah. One day I want to find. I already said that already. I will find the original DVD for that, but yeah. So, great comedy, very fun movie, and Bill Paxton, was a great character in that. But that's my thoughts on Weird Science. Great 80s, silly, goofy, entertaining, and funny comedy. And we will see you later. Bye-bye.